All right, welcome to today's VidTao podcast. This is VidTao co-founder Ian Nagy, and today we have a very special guest, Nadira Azermai. So Nadira has built some amazing AI tools. First was something called ScriptBook.ai, which was a predictive model for actually predicting how successful a feature film would be just using its script. So just in script format. So she was able to build this tool and predict for movie companies, for big production companies, how successful these scripts would be. And it was more accurate actually than the humans who were assigned to do this task, who were experts at doing this, experts at really predicting how successful a movie would be based on every factor. So since then, she's gone on to build something called DeepStory.ai, which basically it's like a writing assistant for movie writers, for script writers. Basically, she's built a language model from scratch. So not using things like GPT-X or any of the OpenAI models. She built this from scratch. Her and her team did. They used over 30,000 movie scripts, and that was the source material for this language model. DeepStory.ai is the URL for her tool, and they have, I think, over 150,000 users now, and it's pretty incredible. She's going to show us the tool on this call, so definitely interesting for anyone doing any sort of writing in the marketing space. In addition to that, we're going to learn more about machine learning, language models, AI, just a lot of interesting stuff that's really cutting edge right now. So can't wait to share this episode with you. Let's dive right in. This podcast is brought to you by VidTao.com. VidTao is our free YouTube ad library and spy tool, research tool. It's VidTao.com. At VidTao, we have close to 1 million unlisted YouTube video ads that you can search, find, discover how they're doing on a day-by-day basis. So you can really see what ads your competitors are running, see ads in different markets that you can model to create new winning ads for yourself, and a whole lot more. It's all there inside VidTao.com. Plus, we have a premium edition. So the database is free to access, but then we also have a premium edition where you have full unlimited access to the database. And inside there, we also provide training. So we also run an agency called Inceptly. That's INCEPTLY, Inceptly.com, where we've managed over $150 million on YouTube. It's a video traffic agency, and we've worked with everyone from brands like Descript.com, Huel, to real scrappy direct response, info products, supplements, health, beauty, e-commerce, you name it, we've done it, and love sharing what we've learned. Every week we drop new training in there, everything from YouTube ad media buying to running e-commerce creatives on YouTube to hardcore tracking and attribution tutorials to really level up your data science game for advertising, and everything in between. Right now, as we speak, we're working on a training regarding YouTube Shorts. Hopefully we'll be live by the time you hear this. On and on and on. This is our passion, is video advertising, and we want to share it with you inside of VidTao Premium. And actually right now, for a limited time, you can get access to VidTao Premium for a very special price. So if you go to VidTao.com, sign up for free, check out the database, upgrade to premium for this very special price, you'll get access to all of the database and all the trainings. And also wanted to add that at Inceptly, we do free brainstorm calls with clients like you. So if you ever want to get help or ask questions about your YouTube ads, your video traffic on other platforms, we're available to chat. Just go to inceptly.com/call, CALL, and set up a time to chat. It's free, and would love to speak with you. Our team's waiting to speak with you. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Nadira Azermai, welcome.
Thank you.
Founder of DeepStory.ai.
Hello, Ian. Thank you for having me.
Awesome to have you on the show. So, I mean, what a cool tool you built in terms of you're leveraging AI to basically change how storytelling is evaluated and also co-creating stories. So, tell me, the way that I first found out about your work is I saw that what you're doing with ScriptBook, where I heard that you had taken in like 30,000 film scripts, and you had all this data on how they performed. You had obviously all the publicly available data, for how they're rated, how they did in the, in the movies, gross, et cetera, Rotten Tomatoes rankings. And you built some kind of algorithm where you could plug in a new script and it would tell you the likelihood of, how it would do financially. And you were selling, like, the film industry was using this tool. And I thought that was super amazing. How did you even come up with that idea to begin with?
Well, the idea is quite old. I was still a student when I kind of thought about predictive analytics, using AI to do some decision support. Um, I don't really have any affinity with the filmmaking industry because, I'm not a filmmaker or anything like that. But I just kind of remember being a student thinking about the industries that were still, operating in a very ancient way. And, usually it's mostly film and book publishing. These two businesses, just it's like the time it doesn't move forward. It's like it's a standstill somewhere in the 1900s. And it was quite interesting to see that, what if there was some sort of a technology that would kind of, disrupt this space and offer decision support to this specific field. So the idea really was kind of conceived back then. And, as everyone who goes to university, doing your master's and all of that, I wrote a research paper, my thesis on the topic, and that research paper kind of, was very interesting to my professor. And, there was a suggestion of doing a PhD, but I kind of didn't feel like it, spending more time in school. So yeah, I did what everybody would do, go get a job that has nothing to do with whatever you studied and throw that thesis in a drawer, collecting dust for X years until an accelerator came to Belgium.
Wow.
It was like one of a kind, and that's where really my first company, ScriptBook, kind of took off, through the accelerator here in Belgium. And and that's how I kind of started to build the system, etc. Yeah, that's the humble beginning.
Wow. Wow. So when did I know you studied, I think I just looked at your LinkedIn. It was undergrad, it was engineering, right?
Yes.
So you have that like strong tech background.
Yes.
When did you start to think in terms of looking at the like pattern identification at this kind of scale? I'm just curious, like, yeah.
Well, the thing is, I think when we started thinking about developing a tool like this, we were very naive in the beginning because we really thought it was just about, recognizing pattern, as you're mentioning. But it turned out to be much, much more complex than that because you're dealing with creative works.
Hmm.
So just, kind of course, there are certain factors that kind of leverage based on pattern recognition. But when it comes to something so specific as a movie script, for example, then you really need to kind of go deeper, not just the low-hanging fruits. You need to start labeling, you need to start annotating characters, because you can't just, use pattern recognition on factors, parameters like character analysis, for example. You really need to label all of that and then train an algorithm so that you get something predictive in the hopes of getting something predictive. But it was definitely a great challenge, which I've underestimated in the beginning of setting up a ScriptBook, for sure. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. So what do you remember the first algorithm that you built? Do you remember that?
Yes. Well, the thing, I remember, like, our team was saying, one of the biggest bottlenecks was that we needed a parsing algorithm. The thing is that everything starts with parsing. You get like a a PDF file, which is a movie script, and it follows a certain format, because most movie scripts or TV scripts are written in software like Final Draft or Celtex, any of the screenwriting softwares. So yeah, you need an algorithm that actually will automatically parse everything.
Mm-hmm.
So literally recognize where is dialogue, where is action, where is scene structure, where is the characters, and you need a really good parsing algorithm. And that was one of the biggest challenges, because again, we thought this is something that could be done in a couple of weeks, and it turned out that we worked probably 8 months.
Oh, wow.
9 months to have a parsing algorithm that didn't make any mistakes. Because that's really, if you don't have a good working parsing algorithm, your analysis won't match. That's the thing, because you'll probably label, let's say, dialogue, you'll label it as character, and all of a sudden your predictions later on won't match. So the parsing algorithm was crucial in success, for sure.
Wow, that's crazy. So you thought it was going to take two weeks. It took 8 months.
Yes, one algorithm, the parsing algorithm.
and then so I mean, when did you actually when did you run your first analysis, like of I imagine you probably, so when you built this thing, did you sort of like tested, because I'm very naive with all this stuff, so this is my, again, like, naive speaking here. So when was the time when you realized, like, hey, this is actually accurate at predicting what we thought it was going to predict in terms of, like, let's just say, like, box office success from a financial standpoint?
Well, the very first thing that we actually tried to predict was genre, because we wanted to start very small and easy. Mm-hmm. So we labeled genres for many scripts, and we trained that algorithm to detect genre with a high probability. So basically, the algorithm would kind of give back the following information, with a 90% accuracy. It's, let's say, a comedy, and then there was a 10% probability of it being a horror or thriller, something like that. So the genre was one of the very first features that we developed. And I remember, like, in the beginning when we were running the scripts and seeing what genres would come out of it, it turned out to be extremely accurate, because genre is probably also one of the easier things to predict, compared to other things. So we were very happy, all excited, like, oh my God, we can, predict genre. All of a sudden, you throw something in the computer, and all of a sudden the computer reads the full story. Because people think that's, it's an easy task. It's not an easy task, for a computer to read a story and to understand, the content and what's happening in it and the characters, and and then throw out a number of outputs. It's not easy for a computer. It's easy for a human. We read a story, mm-hmm. and we know instantly who is the bad guy, who's the good guy, and and what kind of conflict they're having or going through. But for a computer, it's such a challenge, to detect all of that information. So yeah, it's one of the first parameters that we developed, genre, and it was so great to see, like, oh my God, the computer really is accurate in detecting genre. It's something very small and very, very, very little, but to us, it was like, the Mount Everest in the beginning.
That's unbelievable, because it is, yeah, I mean, like, how would you actually break that down and, establish the quantitative criteria that says, okay, this is a horror movie or whatever. Maybe it's like, is there an axe involved? Whatever. But that's unbelievable. And I know you developed so many other criteria, looking at like character likability, but identifying. So how is it identifying the hero, the protagonist? Was that a similar kind of journey?
Oh God, that was a horrible journey. It feels like I only have horrible stories to tell. And it was like every feature that we developed in the 7 long years of ScriptBook was a fight and a battle. Like with protagonist, antagonist, there was so much labeling. And the thing is, you actually have to go through the story. You have to read the script. So we had so many script readers. We were getting filmmaking students, or let's say in the summer months, July, August, they would come in like 50 or 60 film students, and all they would do was like literally read scripts and label them and tell us, this is a protagonist, antagonist, and that's one feature. But there's also like the whole sentiment analysis. We had like the full advanced sentiment analysis that would like go through so many emotions. I was crazy to think back. I wanted to detect about 120 emotions. Obviously I was out of my mind back then. But we were able to detect about probably around 30-40 emotions, which is still a lot. And that was like pure hell. Because for some people, that when they were labeling, for some people, let's say anger is different. Anger for me might be different than anger for you. So I would, for example, label, this is anger, and you would probably label it as scared, fear. So that was another challenge, because you needed to have like an inter-agreement rate higher than 75%. So we were developing protocols beyond like developing AI. We were like getting into protocols, like what is acceptable, for something to work. We need, out of the, let's say 60 film students, definitely 75% inner agreement that this specific sentiment or emotion is labeled anger and not fear, for example. So it was a massive Herculean task, that advanced sentiment, for sure.
Wow. So basically what you're saying is, so you're like cutting off, it's like a belt. So you're talking about like a bell curve type of situation, and you're cutting off the extremes. And you're saying only if it, okay. Wow. That's crazy. That is super cool. And I mean, and so when did you have an aha moment when you realized like, okay, we're actually, it must be crazy to see this. You started from scratch, and then you're putting these things into it. You're doing all the labeling, and then it's totally off. And then at a certain point, you're like, there's no error, right? That must have felt amazing.
I mean, like after developing a number of features, the cherry on top of the cake was, of course, the box office, and it's so hard to predict box office. It's because there's so many factors that come into play. You can have an amazing script with amazing actors, but if your distribution strategy, how you're releasing the movie, isn't the best or the most optimal, the movie won't do well. So there are so many factors, external factors. Sometimes you just have for example, an actor that just has a bad headline in the newspaper, and all of a sudden it tanks your movie. So many external factors that come to play. But for us, it was like, what can we control within the narrative of box office prediction? And it was like, okay, we'll figure out what the parameters are that have a high weight, or that actually do matter, because what we saw is like other companies, for example, were focusing a lot on other parameters, such as social media, Twitter feeds, marketing, and all of that. And for us, it was like, okay, but these factors come after. You want to be able to predict before your sunk costs. You want to be able to predict before you spend hundreds of millions of dollars on moving into production, because just like in a film production process, like the beginning of that process is such an expensive one. So if you're able to kind of predict the financial return on a project early on, that is that's where the most value is. And of course, afterwards, there are companies that do far better job than us in predicting marketing buzz and all of that. So and when you look at the information that you have early on, there isn't much to work with. That's the thing. You only have the story.
Yeah.
Most of the time, there isn't even a cast. It's just words on a piece of paper. That's it. So you really have to do the work. And for us, it was always like, okay, are we going to hit the jackpot with the next feature? Is this the feature that will actually kind of move the needle from being random, predicting box office and just being random, or like moving the needle towards, oh, okay, we really have made an impact with this specific feature. And honestly, sometimes we were developing features and we were thinking, okay, this one will matter, and it didn't do anything. Like box office wise, it didn't have an impact on the predictions. And then we were developing a feature that we kind of thought, this is stupid, we'll just kind of see what it does, and then it made such a huge impact in the accuracy of box office prediction. So wow. It was really, every now and then it was a mind fuck. Honestly, sometimes we were like certain this feature will matter, and then it wouldn't do anything, and then features that we thought, okay, we'll just add them as extras, and then they turned out to be a huge parameter for box office accuracy. Yeah, wow. It's a weird game.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, this is all a proprietary engine, and you have all this data that you fed in. I'm just curious. Maybe you can't share this. I totally understand. But was there this sort of unexpected criteria that made it so much more accurate? If you're able to share it, what was that?
Yeah, it's a question that actually a lot of people were asking me. What is, let's say one of the top 10 features that actually make a difference in box office prediction? And I was always very open towards people. It's act structure. It's something, again, it was a feature that I kind of told my team, I think this might be important. And it was just, a wild guess, to be honest, because we were reading so much research papers and we were reading so much screenwriting books for, people that don't know anything about the movie business. It's like, AI people reading about the movie business. And I kind of just told them maybe we should kind of see if we can detect the act structure, because everybody is talking about act, 3-act, the resolution, the first 10 pages. This is important. Let's see what all of these movies have in common. And it turned out that the act structure, at specific places in a script really mattered for box office performance. It's one of those features that gave us like a boost in accuracy. Yeah.
Wow. So what is act structure? What is that? Like, how do you even define that?
Good question for someone who doesn't know anything about films.
No, I'm just curious. I
can only tell you what I've read from Sid Field's screenwriting book. Act structure, I guess it's literally, you have to follow like it's a timeline. Okay. I would call it a timeline. Like you need to make sure that the story evolves at certain at a certain pace. And the act structure is that timeline. Like you need to have, like, if a movie is a 90-minute, let's say 90 minutes, 1 hour 30 minutes, 90 minutes, then your first act should be around 30 pages. So basically, 1/3 something needs to happen that will kind of swing the story further into the second act, and then the resolution needs to happen like just around page 75, 80. It's like it's a timeline. I can only spread the knowledge that I've read from all those screenwriting books.
But that's crazy how what's crazy about what you built is that it kind of allows you to distill the whole thing into like, this is the actual metric that matters. That who would have thought, right? That's crazy.
Absolutely. That's why I say it's a weird game. Like developing AI tools, sometimes it's weird, because sometimes you really think that you're onto something and you kind of put your heart and soul into something, and then it doesn't pay out. And then sometimes you just hit the jackpot with something really stupid that you think won't matter.
That's crazy. And so what's interesting too is, like you said, so before you even have a cast, before you say like, oh, Will Smith is going to be the protagonist, the film company has these scripts, right? So, I mean, I'm not super familiar with the process, but I imagine there's only like a certain number of scripts that are even considered. So at what point would a company use an analysis like this to actually say, like, out of these X number of scripts, we're going to move forward with this one?
Well, the thing is, like for example, a studio, they work with agencies, that's the thing. The agency is the curator. They send them material that has been curated by their, talent agents. That's the thing, how studios work. So studios would actually use an AI analysis, like in the early stages, in pre-production early
Hmm.
stages, let's say, probably in the development phase, and production companies as well. But I have to say, Ian, I mean, in full honesty, it's one thing building an amazing tool that really works tremendously, and it's another thing selling it to an industry again, that's so ancient in their thinking, and because the thing is, film industry isn't it's not that they're ancient, because they're using CGI and they're using
Hmm.
so many technologies. Like, for example, that 3-hour movie from Al Pacino,
Yeah,
what is it called? That was I forgot, with Al Pacino, and it took like 3 hours, and with
let
on
me look it
Netflix,
up.
I forgot, but they kind of made the actors younger using technology.
Right. The
And
Irishman.
The Irishman, thank you. Horrible with titles.
Nice.
And then also, like, if you look at Top Gun, where they kind of used AI to give Val Kilmer a voice.
Hmm.
So it's not that they're allergic to technology or AI. It's just there is something happening in their psyche.
Hmm.
They like to have their fingers on the green light button. Like,
Yeah.
technology in the early stages of the film production process, is they try to keep technology out of the game, out of the equation. But technology from production on until the release is very welcomed. They're the
Mm.
first one to use the newest marketing technologies to kind of, assess, moviegoers' reactions. That's why tech startups don't have issues selling software to
Hmm.
studios, because it's something that's like, in a later stage. But every company that I know that does like script analysis, or that kind of interferes into the decision making process, when it comes to greenlighting a project, they all struggle. Because it's just actively, the industry is actively trying to push back on that kind of technology. So it's not easy. I mean, it's one thing building cool technology. It's another thing, having an industry that's actually accepting this technology with open arms. So it's difficult.
Yeah, I mean that's super interesting. I mean, it's what's crazy is that I just wondered, do you know anything about, like, what are the mechanics of how a movie actually becomes a success? There must be some kind of word of mouth component, because what you're pointing at is that it's someone has to actually the reason why a movie is successful, or one strong reason why you've identified this sort of act structure, and you see like the whole script plays a part in how successful it is. You see this like quantitatively, then that means that people are watching it and then they're telling other people about it, right? Because you can't this there's some element of that that's taking a big part. It's not just like who's in it and what's the trailer like to get people in the door that first time. So have you done any like um, taken any look into how a movie sort of snowballs from that, like those first people who watch it? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, it's a difficult dynamic, because you have movies that kind of make all of their earnings in the first 2 weeks,
Hmm.
usually the big blockbusters, and then you have the more the independent movies that have a
Hmm.
long tail,
Mm.
which means, like, they keep making revenue, but they need just more time. Yeah, I can. It's a long tail for the independent movies, while the box office does this, and it really falls down
Hmm.
in the first weeks. But I can only tell you what is the common denominator between all those successful movies, and it's always the script. we
Mm.
we found that the quality of the storyline has the highest predictive value. So it really is about how strong is your story,
Wow.
regardless of cast, regardless of marketing. And I kind of, it makes sense, because when we go to see a movie, we're usually, attracted by the storyline. We go like, okay, that was a really good story. I didn't expect this or that. And in my case, for example, I would never go watch a lousy movie because it has, some famous actor in the lead. It's not something that would attract me or really, inspire me to pay $12 to watch a movie.
Yeah.
It really is about, do I like the story, even if it's just a trailer? It's always about what's being told. Is this story something that speaks to me? Is it interesting enough? And it's also what research shows. The storylines, everything. And it's a discussion, an endless discussion. I've had so many discussions about this with studios, with production companies. I mean, I'm kind of, honestly, it was like discussion that made me puke sometimes, literally in a meeting. Because it's simply because they keep putting an emphasis on actors. It's always like, oh yeah, but about the movie package, what if we change actor X with actor Y? What's the impact on box office? I'm like, none. It's maybe I don't know, maybe less than 10K. That's the impact. And they want to kind of to play with make it like a game that they play with. If I put actor X instead of actor Y, then all of a sudden I'll have 70 million more at the box office. It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. Of course, if you go from an unknown to a very, well-known actor, there will be difference in the box office, but I'm not talking about tens of millions. Let's say a movie has an unknown actress in the lead. That same movie, let's say it will make 5 million at the box office. And if you put in that same movie a very well-known actress, it'll probably make 7. So we're not talking about, like going from 5 to 100. We're talking about like modest changes in box office performance. And this is something that seems to be very unacceptable to a lot of companies and studios. Yeah.
Wow. Because I imagine the decision-making process is really driven by people who, are probably operating on like an emotional gut level of like, hey, this is the one I like because I think it's going to do this. And they're probably not as open. It seems like they wouldn't be as open to like an impartial, data-based outsider perspective like you're presenting, which is that's really interesting. I'm actually curious too. Did you ever, we talked earlier briefly about trailers. And I guess I was thinking about it. A trailer would have to, in some respects, map to some level on the story of the actual script. I'm just curious if you did any, like if you're able to distill a trailer down into the similar like text format, and then in any analysis comparing it to scripts. And I'm just curious about that.
Well, we got a lot of questions from the industry. Can you kind of customize your AI and use it on synopsis or just short treatments or on a trailer? But the thing is, it's like building a new company.
Wow.
It's quite hard to make, the industry understand this, because they think it's easy to kind of just switch algorithms. It doesn't work like that. Also, because you work on text, in order to have some accuracy, you need text. Like a script, has usually 100 to 120 pages. That's, acceptable when it comes to performing analysis. When it comes to treatments or synopsis, it's such a very short amount of text. Like sometimes it's a half a page, which, you might actually be able to develop some kind of features. But when it comes to predictive values as financial returns, I honestly wouldn't believe a company that would come out and say, oh, we have an 80% accuracy rate predicting performance based on a synopsis. I would never, honestly, I would never trust a company that says that, because I know the insides of such, of building such systems. And it's not feasible in my perspective, unless they are, I don't know, from Mars and they know something more than we do. So, yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, there must be, do you ever do anything or have people approach you about applying this to advertising, for instance?
Advertising, books, so many questions. And and I wish we could do all of this, but that's the thing. It really takes I think the same answer. In order to do this for advertising or for the publishing industry, you really need to start a new company, because it's not just, a plug and play mechanism.
Got it.
It's not just, oh, this algorithm that we have can be just, customized towards, let's say, advertising or branding, or let's say books. No, it doesn't work like that. It's I wish it was, but it isn't. You need to start from scratch. That's the thing.
Got it. That's crazy. And you've seen it firsthand because you built this from scratch.
Yes.
Which it sounds like it's, obviously you've earned the, there must be so many bumps along the way. That's amazing though.
Yes.
And
trust me, when you start building something like this, the only way to describe it is you have to be temporary insane. Honestly, it's like fleeting temporary insanity in building such a tool. That's the only thing to describe it.
Well, what made you, because you mentioned earlier that you don't really come from a film background. So what is it about this whole project? I mean, I know, and we're just, so people know, we're just talking about phase 1, right? There's a whole other phase 2 that is incredible that I can't wait for you to share with us. But just in terms of, so what attracted you to this whole project to make you go temporarily insane and, fall in love with it? I'm just curious.
A very good question, because I have no affinity with film, but I guess, going back, Ian, it's like, just think about being a student and everybody has a topic for their thesis and you have no topic and there's time pressure, and all of a sudden you're in a library until midnight and you see something come along in the form of film projections, and it's like a aha moment. Maybe I should do that. That's
how it happened.
That's what happened.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's really what happened. I didn't have a topic and I was really panicking. And it just, it's just what happened, honestly. I can't really describe it differently than it's the truth. It's the truth. It's just, and the thing is, I honestly, up until that moment, I didn't even think that there were scientific research studies about the topic. It was until I started, I found so many studies from Harvard, MIT, Wharton, all about box office projections. It was like I was living under a rock. I was like, wow. Oh my God, like people have been doing research on this topic for the last 25 years. This is insane. So it's been researched. It's definitely nothing new. I think just back in the days, like those studies from the early 2000s and then in the 90s, probably were still focusing on star. How do you call it? Star. Like the star, blah blah, of an actor.
Right. Star power. Yeah.
Star power. That's it. And lots of press and marketing and you name it. And and AI wasn't in play yet, in the 90s with those old studies. But I definitely did not reinvent the wheel. There was plenty of research on the topic and I just happened to stumble upon it. Yeah.
That's wild. That's so cool. And then years later, here you are. so cursing,
Ian, thinking I wish I had kept to my job, just being a boring financial wizard, something like that.
Oh wow. Yeah, you stepped into the crazy world of film, and look what happened. But so I mean, I have so many more questions about that first phase of kind of what you've done, but I want to jump to kind of what this has evolved into, the current manifestation, which is, so you have DeepStory.ai, right? Like where you're not just, you have this data, but then you've built this co-creation tool that empowers people to be more creative. I'd just love to have you talk about this. And how did that transition happen? That's the first question, I guess.
I think the first time when I thought about generative AI, like an AI that actually generates, was back in 2014. I was still working on ScriptBook, like being in the middle of all the piles of shit of ScriptBook at that time, but I was still thinking about like what will the future bring. And I was certain at that time, because I remember telling this to my team, like within 5 years we'll have AI written scripts. I was saying that in 2014, and this is long before OpenAI happened. Now it's all about OpenAI and the GPT-3 and GPT-2 and all the GPT and DALL-E models, but I was saying this like almost 10 years ago, saying that, this is going to happen within the next 5 years. I was certain that we would watch an AI written movie in the cinemas. I was probably too optimistic because we haven't seen an AI written movies in the cinema yet. But it became some sort of a hobby project for me. It wasn't part of ScriptBook. It was something that I actually kind of worked on the side, thinking about, what if we could build an AI system that actually wrote scripts, and all of a sudden, because I thought it was so stupid. The fact, I always think about who is the bottleneck in every situation. We always have bottlenecks, and the bottlenecks is actually what doesn't allow a company to grow or a person to move forward. And it's in for example, in storytelling, it's people themselves, because a writer can only write one script or one story or one book probably a year, or in 2 years. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 years to finish up a story. So it's just not scalable, and I thought, what if there's an AI that actually would kind of remove all those limitations? What if the top writers, they could use this tool and just be greater than they are, in the sense that they would just chew out the script after script, story after story, book after book. And the ones with no talent for writing, like myself, we would actually be given the opportunity to actually write something stupid or silly or funny. It's not a hobby, or it's not an art form that's only meant for the trained writer or the trained eye. Also for the ones that actually don't know how to write. So that's for me, the intake. I was like just thinking about kind of making the storytelling as accessible as possible to everybody, especially with having YouTube, so many channels, and content is king. It's been king for many years now. I mean, not just now. And if you look at how much content we consume, it's insane. Like, you're on YouTube, like watching content after content, or people are on TikTok. I'm not a fan of TikTok, I have to say. I can't watch anything on TikTok. It just makes me feel like I want to shoot my brains out. But people watch TikTok and on Instagram. Everything is content nowadays. If you want to sell something, you have to sell it in the form of content. That's the thing. But you need a machine that's able to kind of mass produce content. And that's where AI comes in. You really need AI in order to mass produce content, because the rate at consuming and the rate at producing isn't equal, because that's the thing. And when you have AI that's accessible to you, you'll be able to match that level of, consuming content and creating content will be at the same rate. So that's, for me, the reason why I wanted to kind of birth DeepStory AI.
Nice. So what was that like? Were you able to use any of your work from ScriptBook to sort of fast track DeepStory?
Well, of course, it's definitely, because I was working on ScriptBook, and kind of the work on ScriptBook made me think about generative AI for sure. It's definitely the reasons why I was thinking about building DeepStory AI. So ScriptBook has everything to do with it, because it kind of fueled my my thoughts toward DeepStory. But I didn't have time for DeepStory, so it was really just a side project for myself. I was just considering this is my hobby project. I'll work on it when I have time, because DeepStory has been in the making for quite some time now. I think in 2020 I kind of launched a very mediocre version, which was still not up to speed, in the sense that it kind of, generated really weird text. And then, fine tuning it. And I officially, I launched DeepStory in June this year, officially
Whoa.
as a company.
Wow, crazy.
Everything before that is just like side projects, like, on social media, launching an alpha and seeing what it does. But the thing is, became hugely successful. Even with the alpha phase, it was just free to use. And we had so many signups, like, so many people are finding DeepStory. And so I just kind of instinctively knew, okay, this is something that people want, because I'm not doing anything. Like, there's no advertising involved. This is just a really ugly interface, an alpha that doesn't work very well, but we'll see what it does. And it took me up until now, until this year in June, I actually kind of officially launched DeepStory as a business, as a company.
Wow.
So yeah, and it's been really a great ride, because people are finding us. It's insane, because I don't know much about advertising. I wish I kind of admire people that have this knack for advertising and marketing. I wish I had that. I'm so jealous of people that know how to market stuff and how to advertise everything.
And they're jealous of your ability to build some amazing amazing tech like this. I mean, seriously.
But Ian, that's the thing. You can build the best of the best, but if you don't know how to advertise and market something, then it will stay unknown. So I'm very lucky in the sense that I still don't have the hang of it, of advertising and marketing. I'm, like I said, I have no talent for it. But whenever I see that, like, 150,000 people find us monthly,
Wow.
just by typing AI generator or AI story script generator, that's it. And apparently it takes a lot of effort to be like first ranking on Google, and we are first ranking on Google. I don't even know how that happens, but people that know a lot about marketing and SEO tell me that that's a big deal. So I don't know how that happened, but it shows that there is a market for this. People want to generate their stories. And when I look at our feedback channel, so much feedback, like, it goes from like professional writers, screenwriters, to like gamers. So many gamers for role-playing games use it.
Role-playing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And advertising agencies, so many branding and advertising agencies are asking us, like, can we kind of give it to generate something, ideas, like, we want, I'm just saying a name out loud, some basketball player and this brand of clothing. What if we kind of put the two together? Let's see what the generator gives us for ideas. It's like stuff that I never thought of. And these users are actually kind of telling me how to use the application.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really diverse, and it's in its use cases for sure.
That's unbelievable. And can we take a look? Can we see? Let me. I want to show this to everyone. It'd be fun too. I just enabled screen sharing.
Let me just go to DeepStory.ai and log into my
it's DeepStory.ai.
Yes, DeepStory.ai. I have two-factor authentication. It's very safe, people. So for people that actually are very, serious about their craft, you can enable your two-factor authentication.
Nobody will ever
touch your scripts. So basically, I've logged into my account, DeepStory.ai. It's very easy to use. I mean, like, you don't need a manual. That literally, you just log into DeepStory.ai, and what we have. Let's go to my content portfolio. You can either start a new story from scratch, meaning that, it's something new. You'll probably type a sentence or a paragraph, or if you don't have any inspiration, you can just literally start generating from the very beginning. Or you can start a new story from sample. I've added like samples, and these are like all pieces of film scripts. So what I have here, like Lord of the Rings, Super Bad, Goodwill Hunting, Love and Bad. This is just to make it fun for people. Like sometimes people don't know where to start, and I just thought, okay, let's add a few of those movies, and so that people can do stuff. And maybe we should we use a sample, or Ian, how about we start a new story from scratch, or a sample?
Let's do it from sample. That sounds pretty cool. Let's do super. Can we do Super Bad?
Of course.
Awesome.
Okay. So this is Super Bad. A kind of, I think it's a scene between Evan and Seth. Okay. All right. What I'm going to do is just literally enter, and it gives you here on top of it, you can see what do I want to generate. Do I want to generate action or a header? A header means a new scene, or a character, or dialogue, or parenthetical. I'll just probably do action just to see what it gives us. I'll generate action. Hold on, let's see. Action. Okay, generate. So this is what was generated immediately. So we have a scene between Evan and Seth, and they walk past Dimitri. As they enter the store, Dimitri aggressively bumps his shoulder into Seth. And this is what was generated by DeepStory. Evan has to quickly move out of the way. Seth smiles and steps back as Dimitri turns and angrily follows Evan and Seth with his eyes.
So that was generated.
This was generated. Oh, I want to generate a new character, for example. Okay, let's generate a character. Evan. All right, let's see what Evan is going to say. And now I want to generate some dialogue for Evan. Okay. He's just joking. He was just joking. I'm trying to do an American accent. It doesn't work well. American with some Dutch in it.
Nice.
Let's see what's another character. Okay, let's generate Seth.
All right.
Okay, what's that? Seth is saying. Hold on. Seth. Okay, let's generate some dialogue. Sucks for you, though. You'll never get into the board. I have no idea what that means. You'll never get into the board. Don't know. Let's generate some more dialogue. And yes, you have suckered me, but only for a few days. It will be over. It will be over soon. I promise you. You can depend on me for one thing. I will not run off to California. Okay.
So this is crazy. So it's basically, for those of us like myself, have no idea how this, what is it, like a natural language processing engine, or what would you call, like, what's actually coming up with this text? What's the thing?
It's an engine. It literally is an engine that was trained on text, on scripted text. So we used a variety of narratives with structures. We trained it on movie scripts, on TV scripts. But I would say, like, DeepStory is first and foremost, it's a film TV script generator. Because the reason why I say this, it's because we trained it to generate structured text in the form of a film script, as you can see. Header. Yeah, this is for example, if I was a writer, a screenplay writer, or anything like that, I wouldn't need screenwriting software, because it generates immediately in the form of a script. But that's the main thing for DeepStory. But you can also use it, differently. I mean, if I look at all of our users, they use this for a variety of things. Like, let me quickly do, for example, a new story. But let's say I'm not interested in writing a film script. I don't know. Let's just see what's in the news. But apparently, Elon Musk fired a lot of people at Twitter. Okay. This is just what's bugging me today. And I'm generating, maybe people can also be fired. Elon Musk is going to Mars. Let's generate some more. So it's not just very soon. So this is also for people that just create short form content, let's say YouTubers, for example, they can really like make fun pieces. And the good thing is a machine, an engine doesn't get tired, you know? If you don't like it, you just literally throw it away and you start over. That's the thing. It's not like a human being that will tell you, you know, I don't have any inspiration for today. You know, you can generate, you don't like it, you delete it, you start over again. That's it.
Another oh, sorry, Nadira.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Ian.
No, I was just going to ask, you know, so in another dumb question, is this drawing from, it's not drawing from the same data that, for instance, GPT-3 is, right? It's an entirely different. Got it.
No, it's entirely, it's entirely new. This is because you know, I've probably the last 2 years there was like an avalanche of text generators. You've noticed like so many text generators on the market, and when you look at all of those, they all also mention that they use, you know, GPT-3. I think every text generator out there is using GPT-3. There isn't really a better model than that. But ours was developed before anything, you know, related to GPT models came out. I think for the people that are more interested in the technical side of it, I would probably have to divert them to the content of the patent. You know, all the technicalities of how this works is written down. If they go to Google Patents, they can literally go through the whole process of building something like DeepStory, how it was built, what kind of technology is behind it. It really tells you in detail how the engine behind DeepStory works. And it's completely different than the GPT models. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. And this is all, you learned how to do this in the process of analyzing, trying to figure out how to predict blockbuster films with that's amazing. So
yeah, it's definitely the infusion of ScriptBook. You know, you spend day in, day out thinking about how to analyze and predict performance of creative works, in this case movies, and the next step, which to me was quite, you know, obvious, was like, okay, the next step will be watching AI written content. And I think we're getting there also. Ian, I think the future for sure will be towards AI content. Whether, I'm not saying that we're going to see big blockbuster AI big movie. I don't know, but I see streaming platforms definitely showing AI content for sure. It's the next, because your audience is also changing. Don't forget that the audiences nowadays are so into everything that's tech, and their taste for content is completely different. I mean, they can actually watch AI content that's so silly and funny because they grew up with let's say with that kind of content, because they watch, you know, YouTube and you name it. It's not your average 65-year-old that's going to watch an AI movie. It's like the 16 to probably 40, 45 that would watch this kind of content. I mean, just watching at the demographic that's using DeepStory, it's like 16 to 45, 80% of our users between those age ranges. And what's insane is that schools are applying for DeepStory. So schools, it's insane. I never thought that a high school, like in America, lots of high schools, like in the Midwest and all of that, are actually signing up for a subscription on DeepStory, and they're sharing it with their class, all of the students.
Wow.
Use the story to probably do some writing for English class or essays. I have no idea. I haven't been able to
Yeah.
ask them, how do you use this? I mean, what are you doing with this story? It's something that I keep thinking about because I get emails and they're like constantly like the email addresses from the schools, like so
Hmm.
many high schools from America. I keep wondering like how, what are they doing with the generator? Are they like writing essays or I don't know. It's special. It's fun to see actually that really high schools are massively using like apps like DeepStory to probably teach their students to write with the help of an AI.
Yeah.
I
It's
can only
pretty cool.
guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's super cool. And it makes me think too, like if you had, let's say you had my top 50 movies that for me of all time, and I say I ranked them from top number 1 to number 50, and I fed deep story, these scripts, and then it could probably generate a script that would, a new script in a different theme or whatever that I would like. And then because of all the, like the generative uh, AI imagery and video now, and synthetic voice, everything else, you could show me like a custom piece of entertainment for me.
Yes, that's absolutely true. I mean, if you feed it, like you said, like top 50 movies, then because it takes context into account. So it's definitely something, but it's also happening because one of our users have like a massive following on is it on TikTok or Instagram, and he makes like cartoons, like animated short
Mhm.
films with DeepStory using the storylines of DeepStory. It's like insane because it was like watched on TikTok, and he sent us the link like, check out, I'm using DeepStory to make like a series. This guy's making a series, like
That's so
a
cool.
series of like animated movies, like short
Uh-huh.
movies, animated, and they're so funny. And he's using like DeepStory, like for the next episode, DeepStory. So people are already like working on series and cartoons using AI, the DeepStory AI for script storytelling, and they use another AI for the visual parts because apparently he was also using another app. And I've been watching him on his social media channels, and it's insane. Like so many people are laughing, and he's entertaining people just by making his custom cartoons. So people are already doing this.
That's
I
unbelievable.
think it was also funny, like a lady that entered a BBC contest, BBC Radio, because she emailed us like that she used DeepStory to generate her story, and it
Wow.
won. And she
Wow.
sent us like, I'm a finalist for the BBC Radio podcast. My story, it was about the best AI story, and she sent us the link, and I listened to the whole thing. It's great to see like people are using AI and they're making they're having success with it. That's all you can wish for.
That's unbelievable. Do you know? Can you share the person who's making those cartoons you're talking about? Do you remember
Yeah,
their handle?
let me quickly. Yes, because I think you'll probably laugh, but this story has a TikTok with 4 followers.
Oh, really? You got 4 followers. Hopefully, maybe one more from our
I told
podcast.
you. It's, I'm I'm not the best marketeer, Ian. Forgive me, but I have 4 followers on TikTok,
And they're
and I'm
deep story TikToks.
uh, yeah, but they're embarrassing. I'm not going
Okay.
just watch them in your spare time, Ian. They're too embarrassing. The person that actually is posting them all, Barack Hartley. I'll just quickly share on. Is there a chat? Yeah.
Because I know people are going to ask about this.
It's Barack Hartley. He's got like almost 200K followers,
Wow.
and he's making like cartoons with. I'm just trying to find because he posts a lot of content. Let me go to because he emailed me about a specific the island. Yeah, it's this one. The island, the AI. Well, you say island, but it's written AI.
The AI island.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly share this in the same chat. So he told me that he's actually making like a series of it and posting it on Instagram, like on every social media channel that he has, and a lot of people, are watching it apparently.
Wow, this is crazy. Oh man.
So this specific short animated film that I sent you, he's using like DeepStory for the storyline for the text, and he's using another AI for that generates like the cartoons. Mm-hmm. Well, not the cartoons, but the images.
Yep.
And that's how he manages to make like
This is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I mean, first of all, what an amazing thing you've done. Like I can only imagine where you started with this whole thing, late at night with no thesis project to doing this now. It must have, what a crazy, wild journey. So thank you for sharing this with all of us. And first of all, I know people are going to want to check out DeepStory. So where can they find it?
It's very easy to find. It's deepstory.ai.
Deepstory.ai.
Yes, deepstory.ai, and that's where they can sign up for an account. They get free generations. If they like it, they can sign up for a premium account. We have a lot of social media channels, but again, its founder is not great at posting. So I would say everybody checking out our social media channels, just like or sign up. It would be nice to have some followers on TikTok instead of 4. So on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, we're everywhere.
That's amazing. 150,000 users of your tool. It's just unbelievable. And then if they want to reach out to you personally, do you have like a Twitter or?
Yes, we have everything. We have a Twitter feed as well, which is also DeepStory AI.
Nice.
Everything, all of our handles are DeepStory AI. So it's really easy to find on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram. They can also email us. We have on our website, contact feedback questions thingy, so they can get in touch if there are any questions. So
Awesome. Nadira, thank you so much. This has been awesome to just chat with you and figure out like what's going on here with this DeepStory things. I think it's fascinating, and so many marketing applications too. Like you're saying, people are already using your tool to basically come up with ideas. So I know we're gonna be trying it out and seeing what we can come up with, and I encourage other people to do the same. So Nadira, thank you so much for being on our show, and you're looking forward to our next conversation.
Thank you for having me. It was so wonderful to speaking with you about DeepStory, about everything. And go ahead and use DeepStory. If not, you'll have just a good laugh. Sometimes it's just a really good laugh about the silliness that comes out of it. And that's also a win.
Awesome. Thanks, Nadira. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of VidTao podcast. Again, my name is Ian Nagy, co-founder of VidTao, and really appreciate you having a listen. And it means a lot. So if you have any feedback, go ahead and email us at info@vidtao.com. Love to hear your ideas for future shows, future guests. If you want to be a guest, let us know. Love to chat. Also, just as a reminder, this show has been sponsored by VidTao, which is our free YouTube ad library, vidtao.com. Again, you can go to VidTao and look up over 1 million ads at this point inside of VidTao. And they're all unlisted YouTube ads. You can see what your competitors are running, track the results on a day-by-day basis, find new ads inside of our YouTube ad library, VidTao. And we also have a premium edition of VidTao. So the library is free to access, but for full unlimited access to the library, we have a premium edition of VidTao. And we also have training from our Inceptly.com agency, which is our sister company to VidTao, where we've managed over $150 million on YouTube. We provide training on media buying, creatives, tracking, copywriting, everything in between. It's all there inside of VidTao Premium. And right now we're running a very special deal on VidTao Premium, and you can go claim that right now at vidtao.com. When you sign up for free, you'll see the offer to join Premium, and go there and check that out. And last thing, we also do free brainstorm calls with our agency Inceptly. Go to inceptly.com/call. And we love brainstorming with you on your video advertising and just marketing in general. Love to chat. So inceptly.com/call, CALL. Would love to speak with you. So thanks again for joining us, and looking forward to the next show. In the meantime, have a great week.